ด็จไปดีแล้วพ้นวิเศษแล้วปลดเวนยชนให้ข้ามพ้นจากบ่วงมารทั้งมวลข้าพระองค์น้อมเสียรนมัสการพระผู้เป็นที่พึ่งของสัตว์ทั้งปวงด้วยเดชแห่งพระพุทธขอจงประสบชัยชนะสัพพะอันตรายจงพินาศไปพระธรรมใดเป็นดุจธงชัยของพระองค์นั้นแสดงทางบริสุทธิ์บอกหนทางให้คนได้เดินตามนำพาความสุขให้ผู้ที่ทรงพระธรรมไว้ทำความสงบคุ้มครองผู้มีธรรมในหัวใจพระธรรมอันเข้าไปทำลายโมหะที่อยู่ข้างในข้าพระองค์น้อมเสียรนมัสการพระธรรมที่ทำให้ความร้อนคลายด้วยเดชแห่งพระธรรมขอจงประสบชัยชนะสัพพะอันตรายจงพินาศไปสาวกใดเป็นดุจกองทัพธรรมดำเนินตามรอยบาทของพระศาสดายังกล้าแกร่งผจญบาปอุปกิเลสบนโลกนี้เมื่อพบทางสงบก็บอกสอนให้คนได้เข้าใจมุ่งทำตามพระธรรมที่พระองค์ตรัสก่อนบอกสอนใครข้าพระองค์น้อมเสียรนมัสการพระผู้มีศีลและทิฏฐิงดงามด้วยเดชแห่งพระสงฆ์ขอจงประสบชัยชนะสัพพะอันตรายจงพินาศไป
เผยแผ่ธรรมคำสอนองค์พุทธะให้ธรรมะแผ่กระจายทุกแห่งหนมนุษย์โลกทั่วล่าได้ยินยนต์ธรรมนำตนพบสวรรค์นิพพานเทินนมัตถุรัตนัตยัสสะขอความนอบน้อมของข้าพเจ้าจงมีต่อพระรัตนตรัยขอโอกาสถวายความเคารพคณะสงฆ์พระเถรานุเถระทุกท่านทั่วโลกและขอความสุขความเจริญในธรรมแห่งองค์พระสัมมาสัมพุทธเจ้าจงมีแก่ท่านสาธุชนพุทธบริษัทผู้ปรารถนาซึ่งความสุขและความเจริญทั้งหลาย วันนี้รายการธรรมะท่วมโลกซึ่งเดินทางมาพบกับท่านผู้ชมผู้ฟังทั้งหลายเป็นครั้งที่3ดำเนินการโดยฝ่ายประชาสัมพันธ์และเผยแผ่องค์การพระธรรมทูตโลกถ่ายทอดสดออนไลน์ผ่าน Facebook Fanpage องค์การพระธรรมทูตโลกรวมถึง YouTube และช่องทางต่างๆเครือข่ายพระธรรมทูตทั่วโลกท่านทั้งหลายที่รับชมอยู่ในขณะนี้ย้อนหลังก็ตามฝากกดไลค์กดแชร์อนุโมทนาสาธุการเพื่อร่วมกันในการเผยแผ่พระธรรมคำสอนขององค์พระสัมมาสัมพุทธเจ้าได้กระจายไปทั่วโลกวันนี้รายการธรรมะทั่วโลกมาพบกับท่านเป็นครั้งที่3ได้นำเอาธรรมะสาระดีๆเอามาฝากกับท่านผู้ชมผู้ฟังเป็นเช่นเคยโดยในวันนี้ทางรายการได้เชิญวิทยากรผู้เชี่ยวชาญพระอาจารย์ผู้มีความรู้ภูมิธรรมภูมิฐานมาให้ความรู้พบปะกับท่านผู้ชมผู้ฟังโดยในวันนี้ประเด็นที่จะมีการเสวนาแลกเปลี่ยนกันก็คือเป็นเรื่องของกระบวนการเผยแผ่ธรรมะและก็บทบาทของพระพุทธศาสนาในโลกสมัยใหม่ซึ่งเป็นข้อสนทนากันระหว่างท่านอาจารย์เจ้าคุณฤทธิ์พระวิเทศสิทธิธรรมพรวัดอัตตมยตารามกับท่านพระอาจารย์นานิโกจากวัดอภัยคิรีรัฐแคลิฟอร์เนียสหรัฐอเมริกาบัดนี้คิดว่าพร้อมแล้วจะขอเชิญชวนทุกท่านได้ติดตามรับชมรับฟังเป็นข้อสนทนาธรรมะในรายการธรรมะทั่วโลกครั้งที่3นับบัดนี้
On behalf of the World Buddhist Dhamma Organization and the Council of the Thai Bhikkhu in USA. Today I would like to welcome Ajahn Ñāṇiko, the abbot of the Abhayagiri in California. And he come and visiting the Washington and giving opportunity to talk about the process of the spreading the Dhamma. And we know that about the Buddhists in the moment or in the modern world right now. Today, Ajahn Ñāṇiko is just arrived this morning, and then we have time to spend at the Wat Atammayatarama for maybe a couple hours. And let's begin the question. Usually the people asking a lot, why you become a monk? And how long are you going to stay a monk? And this is the same question. I think Ajahn Ñāṇiko also he got the same question that I got. And then I know that in Abhayagiri, to become a monk, they have the process, right, Ajahn? They have the process to, another word, the people, they ask me, what the meaning of anagarika? And then today we come and clear with Ajahn Ñāṇiko. And this today, and we're going to put in the World Buddhist Dhamma Organization, the office in England, in UK, and then the Council of the Thai Bhikkhu. So I doing a lot of the spread the Dhamma with that. Okay, Ajahn, maybe you begin with the first question. Why you become a monk, and how to the process for the be a Nagarika and to be okay.
Well, I'll just give the shortened version of why I became a monk.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it was a long time ago now, because now I've been in robes for half my life, and so it was when I was 20 years old. I came across Longpo Cha's teachings,
Okay.
and as a young guy, straight out of graduating high school, I went straight into university, but I was not really sure what I was doing, and I was prey to the normal influences that people my age are generally prey to in America, and I didn't really feel like I had much direction in my life, and eventually I reflected that I'd been going to school since I was 5, graduate high school, go straight into university, and I didn't, I thought, well, maybe I should try something else. So as I was getting more and more depressed and not really sure what to do, then I came across Longpo Cha's teachings. I read this book, A Still Forest Pool, that I came across, and the teachings in that book inspired me to look into the Thai forest tradition of Buddhism, and Abhayagiri just happened to be the closest place to where I live. And so I did go there. I went there in May of 2001. The standard was, at the time, you had to be a guest for only 1 week maximum, was your first visit. So I went for a visit there and stayed for 1 week, and I was very inspired by the way the monks were living. There's 250 acres in this mountainside with a lot of kuti, monks' dwellings. People were living on their own, and they seemed to be practicing well. And I spoke with Ajahn Pasano at the time.
Ajahn Pasano, yes.
He was there, and Ajahn Amaro was also there. They were what we call co-abbots, which is kind of an unusual setup in a Buddhist monastery, but they were co-abbots. Ajahn Amaro was not there when I visited. He was in New York giving teachings. And so there was only about 7 people living at Abhayagiri at that time, and very, very basic. There was a small house, and there wasn't many places to stay. And so at 5:30 p.m. every day they have tea time, Q&A with Ajahn. And Ajahn Pasano was in there, and I would go in, it'd just be me and him, because there's nobody around. And he answered my questions every day. And I think like, oh, this is really amazing, so I want to. And already my suffering becoming less, because I could see I was connecting with the teachings. And so I came back, and I asked to come back, and he said, yeah, you can become Anagarika if you want. They had one opening to become Anagarika. And at that time, we only could have 8 people legally living at Abhayagiri. More than that, we couldn't have. There was a waiting list.
Yes.
So he said I could come back, so I went home. I was working in construction, so I quit my job and came back in late June of 2001, and then stayed at Abhayagiri.
I see.
Yeah, and then after about a month and a half, I became Anagarika. On my birthday, my 21st birthday, I became an Anagarika. So Anagarika means homeless one.
Homeless one, yeah.
Which is the first step of training. I call it the first gate of ordination. And if you want to become a bhikkhu in the Longpo Cha lineage of Buddhism, he would have you become Anagarika, where you wear white. You take the 8 precepts. Most people in Buddhism are going to be familiar with the 5 precepts. The 8 precepts is the 3rd precept of sexual misconduct becomes full celibacy, so we can't have any type of sexual activity. And then there's the 6, 7, and 8, which are the renunciate precepts. So those are not eating after noon, same as the monks, and then not engaging in entertainment, beautification, or adornment. So we don't. Not seeking distraction, and then not lying on a higher luxurious sleeping place. The Anagarikas can still use money at Abhayagiri, so they usually look after the kitchen, and they can drive.
Yeah.
So part of Ajahn Chah's idea, I think, with the Anagarika ordination is that you're in a position of service for 1 year, so that if you do become a monk, then you know how hard the lay people have to work to make you food, offer you food. And then you have real appreciation,
yes,
real gratitude
yes,
for it because you had to do that for 1 year. So you had to do all that hard work, and then you know everybody who comes does that for you. So you don't just take it for granted or think like, oh, I deserve this because I'm a monk. So Anagarika, we kind of think of it as like boot camp for the monk,
oh, okay,
for the beginner, spiritual boot camp. And then after 1 year, they can request to become Samanera or novice, or take novice ordination. The difference there is they take on the precept at Abhayagiri of giving up all their assets, so closing their bank account, giving up money, not using money anymore. So they become dependent on the pindabat, on the people bringing the food for them. Whereas the Anagarika, we still ask them to buy their own things. We still ask them to pay their own medical insurance and things. The Samanera, the novice, they give that up and then they depend on, for us it's Sanghapala Foundation, the steward foundation that looks after the Sangha. Then if they make it through their novice year, then they can request to take bhikkhu ordination.
Okay,
So
I have been to Abhayagiri for a couple of times. Long Paul Panya, so I have been there. I think the people who listen to our talk today and maybe they don't know where the Abhayagiri, Abhayagiri, you said the 250 acres.
250 acres.
Okay,
Yeah.
on the mountain. I have been on the mountain. And I have heard that they brought some more. They brought some more than now already done?
We have 300 acres.
Oh, 300
now.
acres.
250 is the original
I see, okay.
part. And then in 2002, when I was still in Anagarika, one of the neighbors, she had cancer and died.
Oh, okay.
And just before she died, she offered her 30 acres to Abhayagiri.
30 acres.
That's what we call Casa Serena, and that's the women's area.
Okay.
And so that has a 4-bedroom house, and we've got a few kutis there at Casa Serena. So that's the women's residence. And then more recently, so that made 280 acres. Then more recently in 2018, we got offered 20 more acres across the street. And that's our new elders residence, which we're making into for older monks and monks who are dying. And we call that Santi Vihara.
Santi Vihara.
And we're currently remodeling that to make it more good for like a hospital type area.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah,
good idea. Yeah.
Longpa Pasano when he gets older and preparing now.
And he planned for that. Okay. The Abhayagiri that the co-have bought, it's the first time I have heard. The co-have bought Ajahn Pasano and Ajahn Amaro, together. It's very nice. And you've been Samanera for 1 year.
Yeah.
Just 1 year.
Yeah.
And then you full ordination.
Yeah, I took full ordination in July 13th, 2003.
2003, okay.
2003, yeah.
And
so a full 19 years, yeah, and this is my 20th Bhikkhu Vasa.
That's a long journey.
Yeah.
And when you go to Thailand then?
So at Abhayagiri, part of the progression of this training is we do the 5-year, what we call Nisaya, where we're under dependence with our teachers, our original teachers it's really the 1 year as Anagarika, 1 year as novice, 5 years as a bhikkhu, so it's really 7 years of what we call basic training. But in year number 3 of bhikkhu, so the third vasa, or pansa in Thai, the third vasa, we get to go to a branch monastery of Longpo Cha of our choice, anywhere in the world for 1 year.
Okay.
So I chose to go to Thailand, to Wat Pah Nanachat. I felt drawn to Thailand. And that was my first connection with Thailand. And so I went to, just before my third vasa, I went to Wat Pah Nanachat to enter the vasa.
I see.
And I stayed there For the Vasa, the abbot at the time was named Ajahn
Ñāṇiko.
and he's now an abbot of Wat Ba Ratanawan in Korat. So then I was there, and then I got to spend time at branch monasteries of Wat Pananachat. There's two main branch monasteries. There's Pujam Gom, which is on the Laotian border. I spent some time there in solitude. And then I also spent 4 months at this monastery called Dowdam, which is in the jungle on the Burmese border.
I see.
And then I spent my last month of that year at Wat Nong Papong. And that was, I think that was the best part, being at Wat Nong Papong with the Thai monks. Although all of it was good, and I fell in love with Thailand.
Oh, okay.
So then after my 5th Vasa, I said, because you can go where you want then,
Yeah,
I said I'm going straight back to Thailand.
I do believe you because he living in Thailand for 6 years, but he can talk Thai very fully, 6 years in Thailand. Okay, now we know that Ajahn Ñāṇiko, who's Ajahn Ñāṇiko now, and then okay, maybe we can talk something. It can help the people. Right now the world situation is very, it's not good. And then we stuck for the COVID for 3 years now, 2-3 years. And now become, I don't know, maybe war and everything, it come up again. And then the people, they have a lot of the problem, And you think how the Buddhists can help those people? What do you think?
Yeah, that's really the big question. Now there's a lot of fear in the world.
Yes.
And I think of the very best thing for this, because as a cure for fear, we talk about Dhamma Osata. The Dhamma medicine is there's one Paritta chant. It says Sakatawa Dhamma Ratanang Osatang Uttamang Warang Parilahu Pasamanang Dhamma Tejena Sotina Nasantu Padawa Sabe Baya Upasamentu. So like the Dhamma medicine is for overcoming all fear. So reflecting on Dhamma, thinking about Dhamma, using Dhamma to overcome fear. And this is actually not that difficult to do if we think about what is our situation like right now. Okay, there's a lot of bad things maybe happening in the world. At the same time, we're sitting here right now, we're in this nice room. So any fear we feel or any other world situation, we're creating that in our mind. And so we can see, oh, well, right now we're safe right now anyway. So there's nothing to fear in the moment. That's one way to use the Dhamma. Also, the Buddha gives guidelines for how to judge people and situations. So in the teachings, he doesn't judge people by their caste. So like in India there was the 4 castes.
Yes.
There was the Brahmins, or the religious priest caste, the Khatiyas or the warrior noble caste. There was the Vesas or the merchant class, and the Sudras, which were like the menial laborers, and then below that was the untouchables. There was this very strong, and perhaps still is, a very strong caste system in India, and people would be judged by their caste. And it's no different in America. You're a Democrat, you're like this. You're a Republican, you're like this. This, whether you're Democrat or Republican means you are this type of person.
Yes.
That's no different than judging somebody by caste. So the Buddha's teaching would say, no, the Buddha was very radical, and he got very criticized by saying, no, you don't judge people by caste. You judge people based on their sila, based on their virtue, and based on their actions. And so whatever they are called conventionally, whether they're a priest or a warrior or a merchant or an untouchable or whatever they are, even if an untouchable has 5 precepts, he's considered higher than someone who isn't following the 5 precepts. So you can actually apply that, I found in this day and age, And that's actually a great way, that's the Buddhist way to judge, say like whether someone is worthy of praise or worthy of criticism, whether they're following virtuous conduct or not. But it is hard to do because we're just like Indian people, we're born into a system where, if you're called this, you're like this, you're this type of person. And but that is the practice, and I think that's one way to help ease conflict and help to be able to have conversations with people rather than just, because it happens too much now, especially in America, where everybody just criticizes each other. And so instead of criticizing each other, can we say, have a conversation and both of us adapt our viewpoint and then come to some sort of better viewpoint. So it's like being able to have a conversation and being able to adapt ourselves, being open to each other, being kind, metta practice. You don't even have to like somebody to have metta for them. You can say, I'll wish you well. The Buddha says even our enemies, we're supposed to wish them well.
Yes, yeah.
But now we're being tested. Can we really do it?
Okay.
Yeah, most people can't. But we should be able to, though, for practice.
Yes. In your experience to practice the Dhamma for 20 years, would you like to explain, the technical term, the word is, non-craving and non-clinking, I think it is the big topic in the Buddhism, yes.
Yeah, non-clinging, not craving.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is perhaps the biggest topic
Big topic,
in Buddhism. There's a lot that can be said. It's really about how we're living our lives. All of the path, if we think of the path as sila, samadhi, panya, we can't separate these things out.
Okay, yeah.
So like the sila, or keeping precepts, shows us where our craving is.
Okay.
Like when we want to say, a simple example, like the fourth precept, I undertake the precept to not lie. But then I think like, I could tell this lie and I could just get what I want very easily. If I just easily tell this lie, they'll never know.
Yeah.
And but because I have that precept, then I have to say, no, I can't tell that lie, even though it may be more difficult. So I have to go against my craving. But in the long term, the benefit is so much greater. So the Buddha's showing us that letting go of craving brings more happiness. So we might think like not fulfilling our cravings or being restrained, it's not leading to happiness. It's like we're torturing ourselves, but actually that's not the case. Because everybody in the world wants to be happy, and everything we do is to try to be more happy and to avoid suffering. But because we have avijja, we have ignorance and delusion, we're doing what we think is bringing us happiness is actually bringing us more suffering. So the Buddha comes along and says, this is actually what you have to do to be more happy. You have to let go of craving and have non-craving, non-attachment. That's actually what's needed to be happy. And that's the actual cause. So then it's up to us to try that out and see if it works. The problem is it takes time, so we might practice a little bit and not get the results and think it doesn't work. But it takes some time, so we have to have this quality of confidence or faith, saddha, that this actually works. But it is a big topic. It's more like seeing how it's connected with how do we live our daily life. Do we live our daily life trying to fulfill our cravings, or are we more like trying to be of service and helping, and thereby maybe going against some of our more selfish desires?
Okay. You know that how to, maybe another topic just come up, how to direct the people to practice the easy way about the Buddhism for the daily life. I usually when I'm talking the Dhamma, we're talking about how to apply the Dhamma for your daily life. Like you're working, you work with the mind peaceful, When you're doing your duty, you have to do it with mind peaceful. How can you direct the people how to practice with the easy way about Buddhism?
Yeah. Yeah, the practice in daily life, when people come to practice, everybody's going to be different, of course. So it's like when people come to practice, say, as a teacher, it's like talking with people and trying to see, like, one is what do they want from the practice. Of course, some people will want to say, I want Nibbana, I want to go all the way, I want to ordain and practice. And some people will, how do you practice in daily life? I have a 9-to-5 job, I have a career, I have a family. How could I possibly do something like that? So there's these different levels, of course, with mindfulness and teaching people about mindfulness and awareness in daily life. Even someone who has children or has a 9-to-5 job can lead a much better life. The 5 precepts, that's a great start. People who are really interested in practice, usually over time I've been able to see patterns, like if somebody has kids and says, oh, I have kids, I don't have any time to practice.
Yes, yeah.
But then my response then is, well, you had kids, so that your kids are your practice. So that's your mindfulness practice, is you have your kids, you can't get out of it. You have to focus on them. And if you try to get out of it, you're just going to suffer. So your kids are your meditation object. Your kids are your practice. Just pour your heart into it, completely go into it, and raise them with all of your heart and do it the best you can. And then that's your practice. And when they're grown up, then you'll have a great practice because you will have already been practicing while raising your kids. If you have a job, you can't get out of it. Just do it the best you can and stop complaining about it and resenting it. And anything you put your heart into, like that's one of the teachings of Ajahn Chah that really spoke to me, was practice is when you really put your heart into something and you do it fully. It doesn't just mean sitting meditation, walking meditation, but it means whatever work you're doing, you're sweeping in the monastery, anything you're doing, you put your heart into it. So that's usually like how we would teach people to try to make their life better, to try to be happier and more mindful in their daily life. For the anagarkas and the novices, people who want to ordain, usually I just say read all of the teachings, read all of the suttas, because the Buddha knew what to say to each person. This is the perfect teaching for this person, but for us, I don't know. There's no way to know. So I just say, well, read all the suttas, and maybe there will be something in there that will be right for you, the right teaching for you. So for people who are ordained, I just say, read all of the suttas cover to cover, and just do that. And I did that myself and found it very helpful. So that's probably the advice I would give for student types.
Do you know what the good way to, we have many ways now to spread the Dhamma, the teaching of the Buddha. One time I didn't talk to Ajahn Pasanno, usually I print a lot of the small book, and I put in front of the restaurant and grocery, I put and everywhere when we go meeting and we bring and we spread a lot of the teaching very short, and then maybe the people read maybe half an hour, even half an hour, they finish on that. Ajahn Pasanno gave me one time, he said, oh Ajahn, maybe you can go helicopter and you throw it, Ajahn Pasanno, he told me to do that. I said, oh Ajahn, it's good way, it's good way. And become the abbot at Abhayagiri, and you join a lot of things for a lot of organization to, for the spread the Dhamma. Did you found any the good way to spread the Dhamma to the people, and then you found that? For me, I'm living here for maybe 30 years, and I found that American people, they love to read. That's why I print a lot of books. I know that they when they go somewhere, the first thing they're going to get the book.
Yeah.
And when they go to the beach, they can read on the beach. They go to the bus, they can read on the bus. They go on everywhere, everywhere they read. And that's I said, okay, if we want to spread the Dhamma to the people, we have to print the book and give to them. And this is one way. Besides talking, we're talking. Sometimes we talk. We have no time. Ajahn, I have no time. Very difficult to come to the temple. And when they come to the temple, maybe a few minutes they can get one book and they can read at home. And I tell my friend, I said, okay, this book, and when we go to the bathroom, they can bring everywhere they go. You found any good way to spread the Dhamma.
Yeah. It's for myself. Yeah, I'm so busy as an abbot. I don't have time. To read,
okay.
Actually, I don't even have time to read. But, it's coming back to, and this is the teaching of Luang Por Chah. He's talking about spreading the Dhamma. Through just our actions, setting a good example. Yes. Actually, it's not, we don't have to actually teach or even say anything.
Yes.
And this, one way we do this is like the Pindabat. So it's like Venerable Asaji being on Pindabat, Venerable Sariputta seeing him, and that was his actual entryway into the Dhamma. It was just not through a spoken teaching, but through seeing Asaji on Pindabat, and his actions were very beautiful and very inspiring to see him. And all of these qualities of being humble and not having a big ego, and all of those qualities were contained in Venerable Asaji when he was going Pindabat in the village. So, and then even though he was Arhat already, even though Asaji was actually fully enlightened already, when Sariputta, his name was Upatissa at the time, went up to Venerable Asaji and said, like, who's your what kind of teaching do you have? He says, well, I'm just a beginner. So he's already very humble, and then that impresses him even more. So his mind is like, wow, I want to listen to him now, because he's not like, hey, come here, this is the best. And he's not. So sometimes I think if we give out too many books, it can maybe backfire on us. Like people might be turning, why are they giving so many books out? So that's why I've come to like, okay, if somebody seems like they benefit from a certain book, I'll get that one book and maybe give it to them, but not just give the same book to everybody, and try to use some discernment, like, maybe this book would be good for this person, or this person likes walking meditation, so there's this really good walking meditation book, so give that to them. There's a really good book that Ajahn Jayasaro put together, which it's in one of those boxes I had brought here. It's called I think it's called Without and Within.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
and it's a Q&A about Theravada Buddhism. And I gave that to someone recently who was new, and they really found it useful, because they didn't know about the idea of reincarnation or these basic ideas that us Westerners normally have problems with, and it explains it really, really well. So I found something like that is really good. It's not too short, but it's also not too big. It's Majjhima, it's like middle. So, but then I found this same person I gave the biography of Luang Por Chah.
Yes,
too.
yes.
They never open it.
No.
It's too big.
The collection of the Ajahn Chah, the big one.
The big one.
With Ajahn and bigger than that one, Ajahn Sumeto,
Yeah.
Yeah, many copies in there,
even bigger.
You can ask anyone finish that.
So some people might like that. But
Okay.
Most people, it's like, oh, it's too much. It's too intimidating.
Yes. Yeah, I think Ajahn, even the Buddha Thasa also said, he said that the way of the spread the Dhamma, you have two ways, one you have to talk a lot. One you have to talk a lot, talk and tired, talk many cover topic for the day or something like that. But another that means the action. We can show, like Ajahn Chah said, that when we go outside, we just show them that, oh, this is a Buddhist monk. This is a Buddhist monk, and then they come and study more and more, Yeah. That's another way, and easy. Okay, and maybe we have time and we can have another question from the audience. Do you have any question? You can, be open for you to ask that.
There was also something you mentioned.
I
could say something you mentioned at first was how do you help people who are suffering a lot?
Okay,
Like who come and ask about a lot of suffering.
Okay.
Like maybe their relationship just broke up, or
Okay.
they're really suffering a lot. So we have people come to the monastery like that sometimes as well, and that's kind of a big issue, especially if people are suffering a lot over current events or over COVID or whatever, or maybe like somebody like their friends maybe weren't their friends anymore because they had a disagreement over current events in the world. This is happening a lot right now, and even in the Thai community at Abhayagiri, this is happening where people who were friends for a long time are no longer friends because they may have had a disagreement about what's the best way to go about things currently.
Everywhere.
And so now when people are really suffering a lot, one is being able to listen to them. So rather than I've found that if I try to come up like, oh yeah, I know how to solve your problem, then they keep suffering. But if you just listen, like we're learning in a leadership position, I've become a very good listener because I found listening is actually and letting people speak. They end up solving their own problem most of the time. Like they'll talk and talk and talk. And well, actually, I don't know why I'm suffering about this so much. It doesn't really make sense. But if I try to solve their problem right away, then it might not be so good. They might not be able to go through that process. So that's one thing I found helpful with that anyway.
Okay,
So, but one is studying English, definitely. For Thai monks in the U.S., studying English, but not just studying English, but tang jai mak. Like you have to really be intent on learning English, and really only then will you start to learn a little bit more about the culture. And although my feeling is like one thing I really wanted to I love so much about Thailand is the culture there, and I think that America does need more of that. Maybe it doesn't need more American culture. It needs more Thai culture. But because particularly things like friendliness and just being very accepting. Like when I was young, growing up, and so we always have this issue in America of like, we don't want to be judged, but everybody's judging each other all the time. You're like this, you're like that, and we're judging ourselves, and then we don't want to be judged, but we're judging others, even though we don't want to be judged. And so when I first went to Thailand, the reason I fell in love with Thailand was because nobody was judging me. I could feel that nobody was judging me. Everybody just completely accepted me the way I was in Thailand, and Thai people are just like that. So I thought that's what we need more of, so I want to bring that back a little bit more to America. Our culture could perhaps benefit from that. It's not like we're just kind of like, oh, I love everybody, but at least kind of like less like a critical, judgmental mind. We could definitely do with less of that. So if you take on American culture, you don't want to take on that part. Don't be more critical and judgmental, but take on the part of being very Americans. The good part of the culture would be like we cherish freedom and people can be very courageous and really good at solving problems, really hard workers. Those are the beneficial things. Like an American person who's a hard worker can easily learn Thai if they apply themselves. They could just so as Americans, a lot of us are workaholics, and so we can actually apply ourselves and achieve anything that we want. But we could be less judgmental and critical. That would be good for us. That's how Thailand helped me. Then it helped me to be less judging of the other people at Abhayagiri when I got back, because one of the difficulties for me as an anagarika and as a novice was I was judging everybody. Oh, you're not practicing hard enough. Okay. You're not good enough. And then you start judging the teachers, like they're not good enough, they made a mistake. Okay. And so when I went to Thailand, it was much more like, okay, just everything's okay.
กราบนมัสการพระคุณเจ้า Thank you so much for coming here. It's very nice to have you here. I have a questions. Okay, how do you deal with the anger?
Yeah, that's a difficult one, because I have had to deal with that a lot, and for myself, anger, it really comes from the critical mind and judging also, judging others, and working with anger, you have to have panya. So it's like as we develop wisdom over time, then we start to question, hey, is that really true? Is that really true about that person? There's this teaching of Luang Por Chah. He said, "Mai ne, tuk sing tuk yang go mai ne non." Like if I'm irritated or upset with somebody, I say, well, is that really the case? Is that really true? Are they really like that? Or maybe there's something I don't know. Maybe they're having a hard time because their parents just died or something, or like maybe there's some reason they're acting like that. There's always a way to get out of anger. Another thing, because I had a lot of this when I was younger, as a young monk, was then getting angry, then feeling bad and get the anger toward myself. So then that leads to like you feel depressed. So there's a teacher in Canada named Ajahn Sona. I asked him this question one time. I went to visit him, and I said, like, because I'm trying to be mindful of anger. How are you mindful of anger? So like the teaching is to be with whatever is arising. And so how can I be mindful of anger? How can I be with anger? And he said, if you're mindful, there's no anger. So if you're mindful, there's no anger. And I thought, yeah, I don't think I might have even gotten angry when he said that. But that no, maybe I don't believe him. I don't think that's not the case. And so but then I thought about it for a long time, and I experienced then, it's true. If you're really mindful, you don't get angry. So because the mindfulness itself, the anger those two things can't exist at the same time. The sati and the kwam-grot, like those things cannot be there at the same time. If you catch it, then it's gone. So when I thought before that I was being mindful of my anger, I was actually generating it. I was actually kept thinking all the thoughts that kept making it going. I kept them going, but I couldn't see it yet. So but being able to be mindful. So mindfulness is really the cure for anger. Mindfulness of the body, where is it felt in the body? the mindfulness of the feeling, the satipatthana, see. This is that has to be the cure for anger and for everything else also.
So Ajahn Kap, I have a related question to the previous question and maybe related to your talk that you just mentioned the culture. So I grew up in Thailand and the people in Thailand, they don't really criticize each other that much. At least we do not tend to do so. And I grew up there in this culture, and I don't really criticize people too much. At least I don't intend to. But sometimes when I observe my mind, sometimes it comes out of nowhere. It criticizes people, and sometimes people that I respect too. So the question is, how do we deal with this critical mind that tend to criticize people, Ajahn? Thank you.
Yeah, it's not that Thai people don't have it at all. They do have it, but not to the extent that, as a sweeping generalization. And not every American person has a judging, critical mind, but it is, in general, it comes because it's in our culture because we live in a Judeo-Christian society. Whether we're Christian or not, we're brought up in a Judeo-Christian society with ideas like guilt and, you deserve to be punished. It's even built into our society, like the court system, like the judge judges you in the court. He has a big hammer, and it's like, guilty, kind of like he slams this hammer down. And so that's built into the society, so that we're always kind of like, guilty or innocent. And with Thais, it might be valid. It might be, why am I paying respects to this person? I don't really have respect for them. But then you have to remind yourself, well, I'm not paying respect to the person. I'm paying respect to the robe. I'm paying respect to Buddha Dhamma Sangha, and this person is just a symbol of that. I don't have to. If that person maybe did something wrong or not inspiring, you can still use it as a practice to bow and go against your own ego, to bow and pay respect still. So it's always good. And then if the person is really a great person to pay respect to, then it's good because it's like a lot of boon to pay respect to that person. So either way, you can make it into Dhamma practice. But it does, the judging critical mind, it comes up very quickly. It's very difficult to go against. But over time, the Dhamma gets quicker, and it will get quicker and quicker, and it will come up less. Yeah? And then you'll suffer less. So you have to see the suffering of it. To see every time I judge and criticize, I suffer. And nobody else suffers when I do this, only me. So why don't I just stop doing it? And we still can't. So we have to see that it make us suffer.
Okay. Yeah. Come and talk together today. And on behalf of the Wat Atammayatarama, the Buddhist monastery, we would like to say thank you for Ajahn for coming today. Okay.
Thank you for your hospitality.
Okay. Thank you.
สาธุสาธุสาธุอนุโมทามิจากที่ท่านได้รับชมรับฟังไปเมื่อสักครู่นั้นเป็นการเสวนาออนไลน์ของท่านอาจารย์เจ้าคุณฤทธิ์พระวิเทศสิทธิธรรมพรวัดอัตตมยตารามกับท่านพระอาจารย์ญาณิโกจากวัดอภัยคิรีรัฐแคลิฟอร์เนียสหรัฐอเมริกาซึ่งหัวข้อที่ท่านสนทนานั้นจะเป็นเรื่องของกระบวนการเผยแผ่ธรรมะและก็บทบาทของพุทธศาสนาในโลกสมัยใหม่ในฐานะที่เราเป็นพุทธบริษัท4ก็คือภิกษุภิกษุณีอุบาสกอุบาสิกานั้นเราก็จะมีหน้าที่หลักๆอยู่4ประการที่ครูบาอาจารย์ท่านได้กล่าวไว้1คือศึกษา2ปฏิบัติ3ก็คือเผยแผ่4คือปกป้องศึกษาก็คือศึกษาพระธรรมคำสอนขององค์พระสัมมาสัมพุทธเจ้าให้รู้อย่างถ่องแท้และก็ชัดเจนเพื่อที่จะนำไปเป็นหลักเป็นแบบแผนเป็นแนวทางที่จะนำไปสู่การปฏิบัติได้อย่างถูกต้อง การปฏิบัติก็คือการเจริญซึ่งสมถกรรมฐานวิปัสสนากรรมฐานเมื่อเราปฏิบัติไปเรื่อยตามวิถีแนวทางของตนซึ่งอาจจะต้องแตกต่างกันไปตามจริตนิสัยบุญบารมีเดิมของแต่ละท่านหรือครูบาอาจารย์แต่ละสำนักแต่ถึงอย่างไรก็ตามการปฏิบัติของเรานั้นท่านทั้งหลายจะต้องไม่ถูกต้องไม่ผิดหลักต้องถูกทางก็คือถูกศีลถูกสมาธิถูกปัญญาก็คือไตรสิกขานั่นเองอันที่3ก็คือการเผยแผ่ก็คือการนำผลจากการปฏิบัตินำธรรมะขององค์พระสัมมาสัมพุทธเจ้านั้นไปเผยแผ่ไปบอกกล่าวไปแนะนำไปชี้ทางให้แก่เพื่อนมนุษย์แก่สรรพสัตว์ทั้งหลายเนี่ยแก่เพื่อนร่วมโลกของเราให้กว้างขวางออกไปและที่4เมื่อพระพุทธศาสนาของเรามีภัยทั้งภัยจากภายนอกหรือภัยจากภายในก็ตามหน้าที่ของพุทธบริษัทอย่างเราก็ทำหน้าที่ในการปกป้องพระพุทธศาสนานั่นเองวันนี้คิดว่ารายการธรรมะทั่วโลกซึ่งเป็นข้อสนทนาระหว่างพระอาจารย์ทั้งสองท่านน่าจะเป็นสาระและเป็นประโยชน์เป็นแก่นสารที่จะให้ท่านผู้ฟังผู้ชมได้นำไปสู่การปฏิบัติได้นำไปประพฤติประยุกต์ใช้ในชีวิตประจำวันวันนี้ขออนุโมทนาขอบคุณพระอาจารย์ทั้งสองท่านและก็ญาติโยมสาธุชนทุกคนที่ติดตามรับชมรับฟังกดไลค์อนุโมทนาสาธุการและกดแชร์เป็นธรรมทานรายการธรรมะทั่วโลกดำเนินการโดยฝ่ายประชาสัมพันธ์และเผยแผ่องค์การพระธรรมทูตโลกก็จะนำสาระดีๆแบบนี้เอามาฝากกับท่านผู้ชมผู้ฟังเป็นประจำทุกวันศุกร์และโอกาสต่างๆวันนี้อาตมาภาพในนามขององค์การพระธรรมทูตโลกขออนุโมทนาขอบคุณท่านสาธุชนทุกท่านและขอโอกาสนำรายการธรรมะทั่วโลกวันนี้จากท่านผู้ชมผู้ฟังไว้ไปแต่เพียงเท่านี้ก่อนจากลากันขอเชิญทุกท่านได้กราบลาบูชาพระรัตนตรัยไปพร้อมๆกันนะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธภควาพุทธังภวันตังอภิวาเทมิพุทโธเมนาโถพระพุทธเจ้าเป็นที่พึ่งของเราสวากขาโตภควตาธัมโมธัมมังนะมัสสามิธัมโมเมนาโถพระธรรมเป็นที่พึ่งของเราสุปฏิปันโนภควโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนะมามิสังโฆเมนาโถพระสงฆ์เป็นที่พึ่งของเราสาธุสาธุสาธุเจริญพรเจริญสุขเจริญธรรมทุกคนทุกท่านนะและเจอกันในโอกาสต่อไป